Momo.
Nachi, why does God let us suffer?
Whoa.
Right?
Sorry if you just clicked on that and just had like a really deep question asked.
It's a big question.
Why did God let us suffer?
And you know what Aleph Beta does?
What does Aleph Beta do?
They challenge the unsatisfying answers to these very difficult questions. And that's, like I just saw on their website, this is one of their videos that Rabbi Foreman just gets right into the meaning and the relevance of these very difficult questions.
And especially this time of year.
Exactly.
When we're all grappling with loss.
Sure.
Mourning the loss of the Beis Hamikdash. Tisha B'Av is coming up. Want to make sure to watch the content from Aleph Beta. Got to head to alephbeta.org. Get a premium account like myself and Momo. But this time, because you're a Meaningful People listener, you could save $18. Use promo code Meaningful22. Rabbi David Foreman, who was an amazing guest of ours on the Meaningful People podcast. Go ahead, enjoy his content, and find out why God lets us suffer. Bum bum ba da 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 bum ba da. And now I want to talk about my friends at
Bridge Credit Solutions.
So I was like thinking before, I'm like, what could we say? I was
actually going to ask Nachi.
You want to ask me?
I was going to ask Nachi, do you know whether or not there are any other sponsors for this particular episode? And if there is, what the name of it is?
Tunnel Credit Solutions.
What?
You know why? There's no such...
tunnels instead of bridges.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a lot.
But guess what? There is no such thing, right?
There really isn't.
Because the only people that can repair your credit
is Bridge Credit Solutions.
They are the ones. So hit the link in the description, hit the link in the show notes, and get in touch with the best credit repair company out there. Your credit might not be perfect, but it could be. So go ahead and get in touch with the only credit repair company that you hear on your favorite podcast. That is
Bridge Credit Solutions.
We were joined this week by an amazing guest, Rebbe Naftali Miller.
Oh, Gevalt.
What a Zisa Yid.
What a Yid.
Oh. Mika.
Interestingly, typically we record the intro and outro
weeks after.
Yeah, like not in conjunction with the episode. He just left the studio, and I was like still smiling from just how infectious his geschmack is. He has such a joy.
Use the word infectious. You can't use that in 2022. It's like,
I know.
He infected you with...
He infected me with his geschmack. He did.
With smiles.
The joy. He has such beautiful stories and such a positive outlook on what he's involved in and what he's doing. I really enjoyed the last hour.
And I hope you do too. So go ahead and listen to the rest of this episode. See ya. You are listening to the Meaningful People podcast.
The podcast featuring our nation's most impactful, influential,
and meaningful people. Reb Naftali Miller, thank you so much. Let's get that here. If you could just adjust it. Yeah, there you go. Nice and comfortable. Perfect. Reb Naftali Miller, this is so much fun.
Welcome.
I'm so happy. This is our second guest from the illustrious Aguda roster.
Indeed.
The first guest didn't come out yet, but it will at some point. But we're so happy to have you here. Thank you so much for making the trip from Flatbush. Is it Flatbush or is it Borough Park?
We live in Kensington. Sometimes people say, "Where's Kensington?" It's in between Borough Park and Flatbush. So we get the best of both worlds.
So it's no man's land. I hear. Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I wanna there's so much to discuss with you. You're the co-founder of Chasdei Lev. A number of years ago, you were hired by the Aguda. There's a lot of things that we're going to discuss, important topics that we'll discuss in this episode. So let's start at the beginning. Tell us a little bit about your childhood, what it was like growing up.
Wow,
in the Miller home.
Thank you very much. First of all, I think it's a tremendous honor to be here, and I appreciate very much what you do for Klal Yisroel by these podcasts and giving the people knowledge and information in a kosher way, which is, I think, something really, really beautiful. And many times I have commented to you, Nachi, on what you do, and Momo, and I think this is something to take notice, that you can do something in a positive way and people appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I'm going to take that as an opportunity. I don't know why it just popped in my head, but we happen to be on a WhatsApp group together.
Yes.
You know that?
Yes.
So
yes.
it was started by, should we just like out him, Bar Goldberger
Yes,
maybe?
yes.
Or was it Moshe House?
Both of them
Both of them.
get credit for it.
I don't know. You don't have WhatsApp. Momo doesn't have WhatsApp, so he doesn't know.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
But I think some people have a setting where you can not be added. You're not allowed to be added to a group without your permission. But I don't know. I just get added sometimes. And one day I'm just added to like Vad Hatzalah something. Like I guess it was like borderline satire maybe. And it's Naftali Miller's in the group. I was like, what is going on here? It was pretty cool. But let's take this as an opportunity to give a shout out to Moshe House.
Yes.
From Mint Media. Big mazel tov. You got a baby boy.
Yes, mazel tov.
Mazel tov. Mazel tov.
And now back to that question. What was it like growing up as a Miller?
So we grew up in Kensington. It was a very at that time, there weren't a lot of people that lived in the neighborhood. There was probably about 4 or 5 families on my block, and today there's probably about 30 families. My mother.
I'm sure out of town community.
Yes,
Wow.
yes. Unbelievable. My mother was a single parent parent that brought us up. We were 3 children. Myself, my brother that lives in Flatbush, and I have another brother that's a Rebbe in Darche, Baruch Hashem, a very, very successful Rebbe.
What does it mean a successful Rebbe?
I love the term. We just were speaking
What a
with
success.
Dr. Akiva Perlman that people by default say this person is successful, and people assume that means something
You
material.
just said successful Rebbe, so I'm
Yeah.
thinking he's a Rebbe and he has a cash advance business on the side.
But it's important to double click.
There it
say
is.
Successful at what?
Boom, 4 minutes in.
I think everybody in life has experiences. Everybody in life has challenges. What they do with that challenge affects the outcome of life. Someone once asked me, a person that went through the parents got divorced, would you take them as a son-in-law? I said, everybody has challenges. Everybody has hardships. How do you know if they're going to live up to that experience and they're going to live up to that? And when there's pressure in life, they're going to handle it well. When you see someone that went through such a situation and they still came out and they still smile and they're still able to, and they have a certain sensitivity that maybe someone that didn't go through that situation, I think that's what makes my brother so successful as a Rebbe, is he went through growing up as a young child, not having a father in the house, and he's able to have that sensitivity for children, and he's able to, a child that struggles in reading, a child that struggles that doesn't have and he has that sensitivity, a child that he knows what it means to go to shul on Shabbos and not have a parent there, and I think that's what makes people greater, and that they can live with that.
It's so beautiful. You mentioned about seeing the world with a positive light. It's such a positive way of framing, a childhood challenge.
Right.
That it builds that resilience. As adults, we encounter challenges on a daily basis, and if a person just grows up in a bubble and never encounters challenge, they don't have that built-in resilience. It's such a beautiful way to look at it.
I think the positive came from my mother. My mother, there was a tremendous amount of challenges in the house. It wasn't common in those times to be divorced, and it wasn't. And I remember by my bar mitzvah cost $454, and my mother didn't have that $454 to cover the bar mitzvah. And the stress, there was no stress in the house regarding that. But when my mother got that check from the IRS that covered to the penny, she said, "Look, kids, how Hashem took care of us."
Wow.
And when there wasn't money for Yontif, for Sukkot, for Pesach, my mother made a special cake for Sukkot that she built up excitement for things that ordinarily were just like, my kids get cake, we get all the stuff every single day. My mother took something that was ordinarily, and she made it so special that built up the excitement for life, for Yiddishkeit, and made it great.
It's, whenever we do these episodes, we always try to, hone in, not just to hear the story of our guests and what they've accomplished, but discuss the topics that are important for the listeners to hear and for us, just to have these discussions. Seems like we found our important discussion pretty early on. Or perhaps a theme for this episode, which is, you just spend a good few minutes talking about coming from a home of divorce. growing up with a single parent. It's not. It's you mentioned maybe it was less common then. It certainly is not less common now. Right. It's very, very common, and many people are growing up like that. I'm curious, and we'll discuss your experience. But I'm curious if you think, just from your perspective, if as a klal, if we could do better for those homes. Is there enough being done? Are there the resources? What could we be doing better for kids that are growing up in a home that has one parent?
Like you asked before, Momo, you asked what's a successful Rebbe. I think the successful Rebbe is being aware of what a child is going through, what the spouses are going through, and you might not have the word or the encouragement to do it, and you might not be in your nature to go over to them and say, I'm feeling for you, I'm davening for you, I'm with you. Seeing a child that's going to shul by himself and going over to him and say, let me help you turn the page, find the siddur. He goes the first time he's putting on tefillin, and it's hard for him to put on tefillin, and no one's there with him. Go over and spend a minute or two with that person and help them, put on that tefillin properly. I think that's something that as a community we could do. We can make a difference, and really, I remember going to shul as a child, and we didn't have somebody taking us to shul. Today, the Rashiva of Derech Chaim, who lived on my block, he was a young child then. He used to come every Shabbos morning and knock on our door and take us Shabbos morning to shul, that we should go and have somebody with us. I remember coming one time, and his father was then the Rashiva, and I'm coming middle davening, and later in life he probably would have said something to me. It was like, great, you came, you sat down, and it was warm. It was a warm experience,
Wow. It's such a nice practical tip for our listeners. If you know of children who don't have the opportunity to walk to shul with their father, to be there for them.
Right.
It's a very important part of growing up, to be able to walk to shul with someone.
And that's what makes also that's what makes a Jewish community so unique. People in the secular world I saw once on social media, someone commented and they wrote like, I've never seen a homeless Jewish person. And someone else commented also, well, they take care of their, people in the community. And we do. And I don't think that stops when it comes to how much money someone has. It continues through all the challenges that a family can go through.
I think also realizing what's important from the situation. A person might not get along with their spouse and therefore have to get divorced. But realizing the children are at stake. And our differences can affect and will affect how the children will grow up. My parents got divorced when I was 9 years old, and I was 9. My brother was 7, and I had another brother that was 5 years old. My mother was penniless. Whatever the situation, there was no money in the house. My father left. My father was supposed to commit to paying the rent and tuition every single month. My mother was making $12,000 a year, and there were many months that she didn't get the income to come, and she never said a word. My father was supposed to show up. He didn't show up. He did show up, and it was hard in the house. But when it came to my father's birthday, my mother would call us up, or wherever we were, you have to call your father and wish him happy birthday.
Wow.
And my grandparents, who gave my mother even a harder time than my father, you have to call them and wish them happy birthday or happy anniversary. They weren't religious. My mother would say, you have to go visit them, because she wanted to show us it's important to show respect to your father or your grandparents, that regardless of
That's so amazing.
And many, many years after my parents got divorced, my mother would call us. My mother was sick. She passed away 2 years ago. Up until that point, and she knew sometimes I wouldn't do it, she would call my wife, say, remind Naftali to do it, to call his father to wish him happy birthday.
That's so incredible.
Wow.
That's one of my favorite parts about, having this platform, this podcast. Like, your mother's a hero. You know,
Yes.
That story is so amazing. That's so amazing. And you know, if not for this, maybe that story wouldn't get out. But that's godless. That is godless.
Yes, and you know, during Shiva, we shared that we weren't easy growing up. There were many times, you know, she could have she didn't know what to do with us. We were three strong kids running, fighting, arguing, and everything was good. Everything was always positive. Always Hashem's in charge. She had all the reasons in the world to be upset. You know, I once asked her this, and it was unbelievable. I said, you know, you moved to Brooklyn. You came from Boston. You came here by yourself. You asked information about my father. Were you ever upset at the person that gave you the wrong information?
It's a difficult question to ask one's mother.
Yeah. My mother once went through the get with us. So she was very, very, very open,
Very transparent
of her whole everything that went transpired. And she looked at me straight in the eye, and she said, "I never would have had these 3 children for any other marriage, and this is what Hashem wanted, and this situation brought the opportunity to have these 3 children. So why should I be upset?"
Wow.
It's beautiful. It's funny if people could be thinking that you are a divorce attorney or something if they're just if they don't know who you are, and they're like, okay, they're speaking a lot about divorce, but that wasn't the plan, and that's not. I mean, that's just something that comes up. It seems like I guess it leads into the question of how much, I guess, of your upbringing played a role in your askanas, because we're going to get into your position without good at what you do, Chasdei Lev, which is just selflessly giving back to Rebbe and people in Chinuch. How much has that played into your upbringing, played into what you do?
So I remember when I was in 8th grade, I wanted to smoke on Purim. And I went to my mother, and I told my mother I want to smoke on Purim.
That is
That's the playbook, yeah.
You're supposed to just do it.
No, but I'm giving you understanding how the relationship was in the house.
That's awesome.
So my mother said, ask your Rebbe. If your Rebbe says you can smoke on Purim, you can smoke on Purim.
Okay, and?
Your mother's so cool, by the way.
I went to my Rebbe. My Rebbe said I can smoke 1 cigarette. And I went back to my mother. My mother said, fine. But my mother taught us, you ask your Rebbe. Whatever your Rebbe says, you follow. You have to realize when you ask a shayla, it's off your shoulders. Whatever the Rav says, a Rebbe, it's their problem, not your problem anymore.
Hope you didn't get hooked off that 1 cigarette.
Yeah, we don't want to be misconstrued as endorsing smoking here.
Yeah.
No, I'm just.
Was that the last cigarette?
That was the.
I'm the one that empowers the guests to not answer some of Nafi's questions.
Just curious.
When necessary.
Does Rav Chaim David know about this? Were you part of that story?
Which one?
The one with Rav David Trank was walking to the dorm, and he did not want smoking, and he would scream in the hallway, Rav David is on the way.
One of the times.
You were in that story.
One of the times.
Now I know how Yoel Gold gets all the stories.
but I was in 10th grade, and my brother wanted to come to the yeshiva, so Baruch Hashem, I helped him come to Philadelphia. But on the day that my brother came, right, Trank said over the story to him, and it took him a walk back and forth. He said there were a couple boys on the bus, and they were traveling to Lakewood, and they were talking about something that they have in the dormitory, and obviously was something that they shouldn't be having. And this man calls up Ray Trank, and he says, Ray Trank, I heard something that the boys have in the dormitory underneath the mattress. You should go there, you'll find it, and get rid of it. So Ray Trank said, young man, do you know what Masechta they're learning? He goes, how should I know what Masechta? He says, young man, the Masechta is on every table, is on every stender, is on every all the places you look. And that you don't know, but you know about something that's hidden underneath a mattress. It's in the closet. When you find out what they have on the outside, then call me back.
Amazing. Rav David Trank. Oh.
Yeah, Baruch Hashem, I had the privilege that when he started the yeshiva, I helped him start the yeshiva, and he used to come to my house, and it was my kids, and it was something so special. I got to speak to him like 3 or 4 times a day for the last 5-6 years of his life, and this story's not in the book, but it was.
We got a scoop.
Should call Shirley about it.
Oh no, not yet. You call him after this airs.
Or don't call him. He doesn't
Yeah,
take phone calls.
He doesn't take phone calls.
I was working at that time in Derech Chaim, and Ray Train calls me up. He says, "I'm on the way to Borough Park." So he said, "Can I come visit you?" I said, "Sure." Comes into my office. He says, "I need you to come with me." Okay, so where we're going? Come with me. We go to a store, and there's a lady running the store, and he says, "I need to talk to you." And I'm standing there, and he starts talking to this lady for 20 minutes about me. He said, "Naftali, he works over here. He has a family." And for 20 minutes, he starts telling me he learned in Adelphia, he learned in Meir Yeshiva, this is what he does. After we walk out of the store, I said, "I don't know her. Why did you bring me to the store to talk about me?" He said, "I want her to know that my Talmidim will be okay. And she has a son right now that's struggling. And I want her to see that this is what's going to happen."
Wow.
Amazing.
That's vision.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's vision. I heard a line, to have the kunz is to have the foresight of hindsight on sight.
Yeah.
Whoa.
That's what that was.
Yeah.
Break that down.
To have the foresight of hindsight on sight. On sight,
That's
right
right.
with that mother.
Right.
He had the foresight to know.
What-
But he drove in from Lakewood to do it. And then he went back.
It's crazy.
It,
I was Rav David's waiter for a number of years before I became head waiter. I was in Kamlung for a while, and I don't recall ever Rav David allowing me to make his wife, the Rebbetzin, a tea. I think he, and if she like, I know maybe she would ask for one, and then Rav David Trank would like put his hand around my shoulders, and he'd walk with me to the kitchen, and he'd make it, and he'd bring it to his wife.
wow.
And he wouldn't let me make, like, maybe, I don't know, maybe it's because I didn't know how to do the cliche anything. I don't know, but I doubt that's the reason. His wife wanted a tea, he's going to make it for his wife.
When they had a simcha, when I made a bar mitzvah, so he wrote back he's coming. So I made a seat for him, and if there's Rebbe's in the ladies' side, he comes to the simcha, puts a table right by the mechitza, and he puts it for him and his wife, and they sit.
Wow, amazing. Wow, so far the episode's been Rav David. I think we're gonna title it like Rav David Trank.
you had a unique relationship.
Yeah, we really did.
Clearly.
So you asked about Chasdei Lev.
Yeah, Chasdei Lev. Let's talk about that.
So Baruch Hashem, I'm part of a great group that, Aryeh Bloomstein. We know all the guys that are
Aryeh over there.
Yeah,
We know all the same guys.
Right. There's a lot of unbelievable people. But what happened was I was then working in Derech Chaim, and I saw Rabbi struggling.
When is this? What year was this?
This is, I don't know, 15 years ago, something like that. A long time ago. Life goes fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I put together some food I gave out to Rabbeim, and I thought 25 Rabbeim. I thought I was amazing, and I was really special. And the Besurskis were giving at that time food cards, money in the store. So my brother had this idea. For us to raise money was very hard. Let's put the two things together. And so we sat down with Rebbe Feinstein. I never met Rebbe Feinstein before. The first meeting, I sit down with him. We tell him about this idea that we want to give out free food. And Rebbe comes up with this whole master plan for Chasdei Lev. And he tells us after the meeting, follow up with me. So we come up to the first year, we do 75 Rabbeim, and MTJ is one of them. I get a call after the distribution. Naftali, I checked out the products. Me and the Rebbetzin feel next year you should change 1 or 2 products. And since that time, every single day we started speaking to him. Okay, how should we do this? This vendor is giving us a hard time. This vendor, we can't get a price. And Reuven took such an interest, and I think that is the secret of the success of Chasdei Lev.
Wow.
The Baruch Hashem that we had, Reuven Feinstein. Anytime we made an event, every distribution, Reuven Feinstein comes because it's like his product, it's his
Wow.
success.
For those,
Nachi and I live in the 5 towns, and we're very familiar with the work that you're doing. For any of our listeners that might not be as familiar, What exactly are those distributions that we're talking about? Are there specific Yom Tovim? Let's give a little bit of an overview of the incredible work that Chasdei Lev does.
So Chasdei Lev is an opportunity for us to give back to the Rabbeim. It didn't make sense to us. The Rabbeim are here teaching and ensuring that our children continue the Messiah, and they should come into Yontiv and be worried. And he said, here's an opportunity. We're going to take care, make sure, Hanukkah time, that you're going to have every single thing that you need for Yontiv, food-wise, in a beautiful way, the best product out there. And Baruch Hashem, today, we're over 6,000 Rabbeim and over 300 yeshivas across the country.
Wow.
And it's all volunteer.
Can you say those stats again?
6,000 Rebbeim? That's family. 6,000 families.
6,000 families. You're talking about probably 60,000 people. Average family of 10 people plus.
Okay, I'm playing on a calculator. 1 second. 6,000 Rebbeim in every Yontif.
Every Yontif, twice a year, we do Sukkot and Pesach. And
That's like every Yontif, Sukkot and Pesach. Okay.
Thank you. I need a calculator now.
No cheesecake now.
Okay.
And Baruch Hashem, over 300 yeshivas, and the list keeps on growing, and the amount of yeshivas, the amount of Rebbeim keep on growing. So, and the most beautiful thing about it is, it's an opportunity for Baal Batim. We come together, we show back appreciation, and we show the Rebbeim that their Mesiras Nefesh, their family's Mesiras Nefesh is appreciative. The community appreciates what they do.
We'll be right back to this episode in just a second. But Momo,
Right back.
You always catch me off guard when you do that, and I I feel like I trip. I like speech trip. I guess that's coming up.
The holidays.
The high holidays are coming up pretty soon. They're right around the corner. I know we don't want summer to end, but they're coming pretty soon.
Yeah.
And one of the most stressful things that could happen that time if you're in school is, how many classes am I going to miss? How many absences do I have to have?
Right. And there's really no stress related to Yom Tif.
No.
I just want to reframe it. It's one of like the Halaga Avodas to do.
Yeah.
To just figure out.
Thanks for not getting me canceled there.
Your schedule. But like this year, Yom Tif happens to come out. I was just talking to someone about this.
Who?
Bridge. No.
You were talking to me, no? You know when people do that? I was just talking. I read online. You watched it on TikTok. Like, what do you mean you read online?
I was just telling Nachi that the Yom Tovim this year come out like Monday, Tuesday, and then like Yom Kippur is like Tuesday, Wednesday, and then it's another Monday, Tuesday.
Not in the same week, guys.
Second days, Monday, Tuesday. It's a moiredig gezach how much weekday Yom Tif has.
It's a lot of class that you'd be missing if you go to Harvard or Princeton or Yale. But luckily, you don't have to go to those colleges.
Exactly.
You can go to Turo University, the best college for you. Go ahead and head to turo.edu/more to find out how they can accommodate your life and your schedule. Now back to this episode. You know, everyone has like great conversations while their shop is stable and stuff. One conversation I've had often by my parents' house, my in-laws' house, is the conversation of Rebbe being underpaid. They have the most important job. I mean, I go to work, Mama, you go to work, and we're entrusting Rebbe to teach our kids things that they can't learn online or anywhere else. It's being, a Messiah being handed down and imbued in them, and put a price tag on that. It's definitely a lot more than what they're getting. So it seems like what you're doing really is doing more than the chicken and meat and potatoes and whatever it is. It's giving them the respect that they deserve.
And also, I always tell people always say, Rebbe makes, there's a whole bunch of different salaries he makes. He's often this. I said, you ever go into that classroom with 30 kids?
Yeah.
Try for 10 minutes and then come back. He said, you could pay the guy $500,000. I would never do it.
Wow.
It doesn't make a difference, But I think everybody has one Rebbe that made a difference in their life, and they are today because of that Rebbe. So,
which one Rebbe made a difference in your life? And we're gonna go around the room.
Oh,
Baruch Hashem, I had so many unbelievable Rebbeim, and so many people that made a difference. I was in 6 elementary schools.
6? Whoa, why?
6. every day, it was a different.
You seem like not a troublemaker, and I'm kind of like that stat sheet over there. Is 6 elementary schools. Okay. Do you remember all of them?
Yes. Some of them closed down along the way.
Second, elementary school is 8 grades, right?
Yeah.
So we started in kindergarten.
Oh, okay. So 10 grades and 6. Okay.
Pretty good, huh?
I'm just waiting to hear what happened.
But I the last stop in elementary school, I had a principal, Rabbi Frankel, who was in Camp Monk.
Wow. Rabbi Frankel.
Rabbi Frankel probably
YSV.
So YSV was your last stop.
It was he was then a principal in Mary Yeshiva.
Oh, Mary Yeshiva.
Before she was.
Were any of those stops Darche or didn't?
No. My brother went to Darche for one or 2 years.
So between you and your brother, how many elementary schools combined?
A lot.
It's amazing. You guys are leading the.
Nachi has kept his calculator out for the duration of the episode.
My guess is like 15, over under.
My mother said she doesn't remember a night she didn't get a phone call from a Rebbe or teacher calling her to tell her how good her kids were doing that day.
Wow. So you're now I thought you're just doing
so listen big.
Oh,
listen
big.
Listen big.
I hear.
She doesn't remember a night.
Oh.
And you know what she did?
Yeah.
This is what she did.
Got you.
She would listen. She'd say, "That's terrible what they did. I hear that's really terrible," and say, "Thank you very much." And she didn't say a word to us about it.
How come?
Because she knew the struggles and the challenge that we're going through, and the anxiety, and the and the pressure. When my father came, the next couple of days we were terrible in school.
Why is that? It threw you off tilt?
I remember one time that when I went to a friend's house and I saw the father making kiddush, and I ran out of the room and I couldn't handle it. I think growing up, what it should be like, and you're sitting there with the constant pressure. You see, you go and you see a father pick up the kids. You see different situations that it's inside of you. It's really hurt, and it takes many years until you're able to realize of what really bothered you.
Wow.
I'm hearing. I feel like you have a very, very heightened level of a sensitivity, which maybe drove you to start Chasdei Lev, to give back to Rebbe. And maybe that, one would say that Hashem put you through the challenge that he put you through to have that sensitivity and to do what you did.
So I think everybody has, a certain sensitivity, and I think everybody has challenges. What they do with that challenge is what makes the person. And if you would sit down and say, what were your challenges? I'm sure you had many challenges, and you are today. I think that's what makes people, and it's an opportunity to grow. Not that we're asking for hardships, but hardships come and make us great. And I think, like we went back, I think that to be careful and don't be afraid to say something to go over to somebody and say something positive, and you'll be so how it made a difference. And but just don't say something stupid.
Right. So again, like
I remember this story is I think the story takes the cake. So Baruch Hashem, I have a daughter that's healthy. When she was 18 months, she was very sick, and I never knew what Memorial Sloan was. I never knew what cancer was, and I remember she was diagnosed on the second day. And I said to the doctor, so in a week we'll be home and everything. And the doctor said, yeah. And I was so foreign to what cancer was. So I'm parking my car, and a friend of mine calls me up, so-called friend. He's like, so what does she have? And I told her the diagnosis. He calls me back 10 minutes later, and he says, I Googled it. She has a 55% chance to survive. And I hung up the phone and I was laughing. I said, how could the guy be so silly? How could he be so silly to say something like that? Sometimes people do say silly things. But I think if a person's sensitive and awareness to what somebody's going through, And real like Ray Bend always has. I think he doesn't have Avis of Bonham because of that. I think
like Darla Dar maybe.
Right.
Yeah.
He has, that's a sensitivity. I think just being sensitive, you'll figure out what to say that's good.
So what are the things that, people should not say or do to a kid that is in a single family home or comes from a family divorce? Like, what are the things of like, don't do that?
I don't know what not to do.
do you really?
No, I think just being like, let's say you're taking your son to a ball game. Let's say you're taking your son to a ball game, and your son has a friend. Invite him to come along. You're going shopping or something, or you're going on visiting day, and he doesn't have a visitor. Try to see if you could visit him, take him to the canteen, or do something. Just be aware.
Opening your eyes.
Aware, and you'll figure out what to do. We're all Yidden by nature are so special. We're so considerate. You mentioned, about, Baruch Hashem, I had the schus to be part of the Varat Solo. And I heard an unbelievable thing. You look in Odessa and the different areas, you look in the news, and you see body bags and pictures of what happened. You know how many Jewish body bags there are? Not many. Baruch Hashem. Because we're there, we're taking care of, and we take care of our brothers. We make sure that everything is good. That's who we are.
Wow. I want to, before moving to your relief efforts, that I know you're doing some incredible work over in Ukraine. I want to just stay for a moment on this sensitivity topic, because right now we're ideating over. Ideating, yeah, like talking about ideas.
That's a thing.
It's a real word, yeah.
Googled it before.
I love this guy.
Right now, we're ideating over how to be sensitive towards issues that are visible to us, right?
Mm.
And that does require mindfulness and sensitivity and just giving it that extra minute of consideration. Nachi and I were talking for a minute before coming here tonight that sometimes there's issues that are on the surface that people are aware of, and that does require sensitivity. But we all know what's going on in our own life, right? And sometimes that's on the surface, and that's known to people. And we invite everyone to just be sensitive about those things when the issue is visible. But there's also so much that people experience in their life, difficulty, pain, that no one has visibility into, or very, very few people have visibility into.
Right.
And the same way we all know whatever challenges we're having in our own life, you can be very confident that the person in front of you in line, or the person next to you in shul, or wherever you're bumping into that person, they might be experiencing excruciating pain at this moment. That's not on the surface.
I love this story, and I tell it to many people, and it really resonates with me along this message, that there was a bacher that was in BMG that saw that he wasn't being matzliach. So he said, today's the last day, and I'm leaving. He was online for lunch, and someone tapped him on the shoulder, and he said, "You're doing amazing. You're learning so well." And he came Rosh Shiva. And he said, if that guy could think that I'm great, I must be great. Mm. And that goes with that line that realize when you say a comment to somebody in the store, you tell the waiter, you tell the person behind the counter, you serve me a delicious coffee.
Just be kind.
Yeah,
just be kind.
But kind that you can make the person's life. You could. I remember there was a story in Borough Park. Kletsky was nifta.
Mm-hmm.
There was and I went into my yeshiva. I ran it the next day after the story. We lived in Kensington, where that person was, and I asked him like what he said. We have to go out of our way to be nicer to somebody else, and it happened in our neighborhood because we have to show us that we have to be nicer. Mm. And every single situation, You never know what that person that day he could have lost his job. He could his wife could have been upset at him. He could have had a flat tire, and those 2 words of being nice to somebody could change his day. Can change his relationship with his kids, his relationship with his boss,
and like you said, the whole trajectory of his life.
Yeah,
Could totally change.
Yeah,
It's funny because like there's that, like, I don't know, say an example, analogy, whatever, but if you're shooting an arrow and you go like 1 little decimal to the right, 2 miles down, it's totally off. It's way off.
I had an unbelievable story with 2 words. I was in LA, and we were there for about 4 days. And my flight.
I love the LA shout outs, by the way. I grew up in Los Angeles.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Great people.
Right?
People. Yeah. The weather, everything's good. I think the weather just adds to why they're nicer, So I was in LA. My flight was 6 o'clock, or it was in the evening time. And I got to the airport, I finished earlier, and I was ready to go back. So there was a midday flight, and I come to the airport, and the lady behind the counter says, we're booked up, fully booked up, and he can't get onto the flight. So I told the person, you have a wonderful way of saying no. I said, so she looked at me and she goes, what's your name? I told her my name. Fine. I go sit down. 10 minutes later, she says, Mr. Miller, come up to the front. She says, I got you onto the flight.
Gewalt.
Fine. I get onto the flight. And
That itself is a Moyer Digga Maisa.
I get onto the flight, and my stomach is bothering. I'm putting my head down, and I'm nauseous, and I usually fly good, and I ask for a drink. I feel like I'm going to throw up. Fine, I get picked up from the airport, and on the way home, I'm dizzy, and I don't know what. I get into my bed right away, and a half hour later, I wake up in excruciating pain. I had appendix attack.
Oh my gosh.
And if I would have been on the later flight, it would have been midair. And they rushed me to the hospital, Baruch Hashem. They did surgery. And those 2 words that I said, who knows what could have happened.
Right.
Wow. That's a very cool Maisa.
Yeah.
Everyone could write their own books, with stories they have in their life. I
You
feel
have
like
to find that ticket agent.
I think we all have these stories, and I think we watch how HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes and orchestrates our life and who we meet and how we meet, and it's just amazing how I ended up in Aguda, how I ended up in Vadat Tzala, it's just amazing. I never thought I would end up in Aguda. I never thought I would be involved in the Vadat Tzala. I never thought I would be involved in distributing $28 million in over 3 months. It's mind-boggling.
we'll be right back to this episode in just a second. And as we strategize what we're saying for this ad, we're so excited to talk about Chayenu. Guys, a free trial, 3 months for free. We're Jewish, and it's free. Let's go. Head to chayenu.org/trial. But honestly, that's not the best way to describe what they are, because even if you have to pay for it, even if you have to pay tomorrow,
it's so Halig what
there's
they're doing.
There's so much content that they're providing for you.
And you know something? This week just so happens to be Matis Maseh.
Yeah.
Right?
Or was.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like what I'm saying is that
what's
saying? Interesting. What I'm basically saying is that this week may or may not have been Matis Maseh.
So basic.
And it's interesting because in Israel.
Why is it interesting?
I'm about to tell you right now. First of all, we're going to be right back.
Yes.
Right back.
Right back.
And also, it may or may not be interesting because we're on a different cycle from Israel.
Correct.
Right? This is the week where we align and we get back together with our brothers and sisters in Israel.
And the whole world.
And all you need is Chayenu to provide a very deep.
Oh, nice.
All you need
Please don't
is
sue me, Ali
Chayenu
Gerstner.
to provide that limud for the week of Matis and Maseh, or just Matis Maseh, depending on whether or not you're in Israel. We're also going to be right back.
Yeah. Could you give me a beat? No,
I cannot.
Chayenu.org
This is something that I'm not going to be participating
trial.
That's right.
Enjoy this episode.
This is the part where we go right back.
Right back.
I want to double click on something that you just said very parenthetically. You said a lot of people have these stories. I think one of your milas that's being showcased right here is that you look for these mices, and it means something to you. And I want to give my wife a shout out. She'll share, like, if we talk about how your day was, she'll share with me like the hashkacha in the parking spot that she found.
Beautiful.
She's like, the parking spot was like right in front of where I needed to go.
Beautiful.
Like, she noticed that, and that meant something to her.
Beautiful. I think the more you see Hashem in your life, and the more you see that Hashem is orchestrating, taking care of your life, then your life is really, really special. A few weeks ago, I brought my daughter to the airport. She's in 8th grade, and she was going to a camp in Indiana. We get to the airport, and she starts crying, and she says, "I'm not going on the plane." I'm like, oh boy. My wife's in the country. I'm sitting here with my daughter. So I start begging her, giving her gifts. I'm okay. I say, I'll figure out how to get you to the gate. I'll walk you to the gate. I walk her to the gate, and she's bawling. And all of a sudden, I see 5 girls walk up to her, and one girl gives her a hug and starts talking to her. And they say, "Come with us. We have a phone. We'll call your father if you need it." And they take her on the plane, and she goes to camp. At that moment, when I looked at those girls, I wanted to do anything in the world in appreciation for taking care of my daughter.
Wow.
They were taking care of my daughter. And then I got to thinking, I said, imagine how Hashem feels when you take care of his children,
Wow.
because we are his children. I was a father to my daughter, and those girls took care of my daughter. So when we see children, and we're taking care of Hashem's children, Hashem's the father. Such a simple thought, but it was like, wow, Hashem takes care of us.
I took my calculator out, so we have to get back to the numbers. Chasdei Lev. What's 6,000 Rabbeim, buying a lot of chicken, a lot of meat, like, it costs a lot of money.
Yes.
What's you run on, I guess, donations, and like, how can people?
So we definitely, donations is a part of it, but there's many different partnerships in it.
Mm-hmm.
One of the major partners is the vendors, that they give it to us, all the product at cost price.
Really?
We once had, we were having an issue with the chicken. So at that time, the Shiva said, okay, let's reach out to Satmar. And he went with us to the Satmar Rebbe, a group of 10 guys. We all went together, went to the Satmar Rebbe, and we told the Satmar Rebbe what we're doing. And the Satmar Rebbe then said, I think we had 600 Rabbeim. He said, you'll get to 6,000 Rabbeim. And
the Rebbe said,
and he helped us. He helped us then. He said, I'm not involved in the chicken, but I'll talk to them and tell them that it's an important thing. And since then, KJ Chicken has been an unbelievable partner with us because of the Rebbe's inspiration.
Gewalt.
We wanted to sit down with Herzog. The Shiva told us, talk to them, explain to them the importance, and they're going to want to join. And he told us exactly what to say to them, to the word. The response was exactly what they said. It's
wow, Reuven really took a real interest.
A real interest because of the Mesiras Nefesh, and it's unbelievable. Sometimes we get letters of appreciation, which we feel is so like we're happy to do it, and we get these letters back. We send these letters over to Shiva. He starts crying as he reads those letters.
Wow.
I had the opportunity to do a podcast with Rav Reuven. And I was so scared. My mom was just sitting in front of him, and I was like so scared to open my mouth. Like, what am I going to say? I speak in third person. And like, the Shiva really, he like calmed me down. Like, he was so soothing.
Sometimes we go Chalamayit to the Shiva. It's unbelievable. It's open house. Anyone can go. I don't know if I should say that, but he enjoys people coming. And I drove with my family, and my son was then 5 years old. I said, we're going into the Shiva, and sometimes the Shiva is like your friend. He acts like your friend. We have to go in with kavod, and we have to be. So my son pipes up and he says, "But he is my friend." Wow. And that's really
kick him out of the car. You're not coming. And you're really, walking home.
He is the way he treats, and you learn so much that he's so normal.
Right.
Life is, and that's really what life is. You know, there's no Ivy League tower. Our rabbis, our teachers are they're one of us. But Baruch Hashem, and we can learn from them.
And you guys make sure to do things in a very respectful way. You'd think that someone being on the receiving end, right? Like you're going to get food for Yontif from an organization, maybe someone could feel a little bit not so great, not so amazing. What's the process like that?
So I think it's not about the food. We're not looking. Many times people call us and say, you have all these relationships with all the foods. Maybe you want to sell to us at the cross. We're not looking to open up a supermarket and sell food. We're looking to deliver a message, to show Rabbeim that we appreciate their hard work. That's really.
And I've seen you've done that, and you guys have gotten very creative with how you do your marketing. A few songs, that you've made featuring Benny Friedman, and so it's more than food.
Yes,
food is just a way of showing it. But
Benny Friedman is a good friend of Chasdei Lev, and he does whatever he could do to help. And he told me that his brothers and are Rabbeim, and he grew up and understood it, so he's happy to help and be part of it. It's really, really nice. You see how much heart and soul he puts into these songs and the videos that they put out to deliver the message.
That's so cool. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, there's also a beautiful emphasis on the process of putting the packages together.
Yes.
And that itself is a whole event where members of the community can get involved in this effort. Is that right?
Yes.
It's like chasadim all around.
Yeah.
Everyone involved.
Tell us a little bit about those events.
I think what the nice part about Chasdei Lev is somebody that's running a business, someone's successful, and comes out and shows and rolls up their sleeves and adds to showing the appreciation. Because you can get workers, you can get laborers to do it. But if somebody that is successful and the world considers successful comes out and shows, that adds to the level and raises the person that's supposed to be.
Also, what it does for them, my father-in-law, Azzy Katz, he lives in Muncie.
Yes.
Many sleepless nights.
Yes.
I think once when I first got married, I think I was there and I think I don't know, maybe he expected me to go with him, stay up all night, but he was like coordinating this whole distribution in Muncie or something.
Yes. He works together with Shimi Schissenfeld.
Yeah.
Great.
But it does so much for them. They want to do this. I think someone wants to stay up all night because it's not a job.
I always tell people think you do a favor for somebody else, you're doing a favor. You're really doing it for yourself. You can't imagine how many times it has helped people get into yeshivas, our association. I have done favors for somebody. At the end, it comes back to help you out. It's amazing. It's an amazing thing. When you do something, you're really helping yourself.
Yeah. I think also the children's involvement in these events. And I've seen, I went to North Woodmere Park once.
Yes.
There was an event and you see the clips, the footage. It's incredible.
There's great guys that run the 5 towns. All your friends.
Yeah. And
I'm afraid to say names.
You leave somebody out.
Right.
But the children that are involved and like the vibe is we're just getting our Rebbeim ready for Yontif. They're not thinking about who's paying for it and where it's coming from, but they're expressing their Hakaras HaTov to their own Rebbeim sometimes.
Right. I think when you see all different types of walks of life come together, it's such a beautiful thing. We're really we're all the same. We're all one nation. We have one heart. It's unbelievable to see, and we all have challenges. We all have struggles. But we're one. We're one people. We care. We don't need a tragedy to all come together. We could take a good thing and all come together also.
It's interesting. Many times when we record episodes, we hold on to them, a few weeks, maybe a few months even, and we air them not right away. This episode we're recording on Wednesday night, July 27th. We're airing it this weekend. It's coming Motzei Shabbos.
I hope it's good.
By the way, that faith, right? Coming tonight, yeah. I called Momo earlier. I'm like, we're airing this Motzei Shabbos. So we got to make sure it's right? So, but we're middle of the 3 weeks, and this episode is all about kindness. It's all about looking out for people. We know that Beis HaMikdash was destroyed because we didn't have that. So I think it's just so appropriate. I wasn't thinking about that in advance, but it's just hearing this conversation, foresight, hindsight, insight. Yeah,
There you go.
It's just it's so appropriate because like we spend the 3 weeks, we spend Tisha B'Av mourning what we don't have and what we lost, and because of what we were. But what we're talking about now is what we are and what we could be. I think it's so important.
I think don't look so much in the inside, like Rav Tureh said. Look what's on the table. Look on the outside. Look at this person as for the good. If you're gonna see the good, you're gonna want to do more. You're gonna want to look at the once I asked Rav Tureh, I said, do you ever see the negative? Do you ever see like this story was unbelievable. So you talk about Camp Monk. So I came in 8th grade to Adelphia for Shabbos, and I was there in the dormitory, and all of a sudden a guy comes into the dormitory room and he asks for batteries. I call my mom. I was a troublemaker, but I wasn't a bad boy. I was I call my mother Matzah Shabbos and I said, get me out of here. This is not for me. So I call Ray Frankel, and it comes. I don't have a place for 9th grade. So in the beginning of the summer, Ray Frankel says, "Come visit Ray Tranks." I come onto the porch, the front porch of Camp Monk. I'm sitting there, sitting with Ray Frankel, and all of a sudden Ray Trank comes running up, and he sits down, and he says, "What's the problem?" And I tell him the story, and he says, "It didn't happen." I said, "Rebbe, I saw the story." He said, "It didn't happen." So I said, "I saw." He said, "Listen, it didn't happen. And if you saw it, that means maybe Adelphia is not for you."
Wow.
And what happened at the end was that this boy just came from Russia, and Adelphia took him in, and he didn't yet know what Shabbos was. And they did a favor for the Rav from Queens that they took in a few boys at that time. And Rav Tureh felt that if he did not know what Shabbos was, and he didn't do it, he wasn't Michal Shabbos, he did not yet know what the appreciation of Shabbos was.
Wow.
Amazing. It's really, really incredible. We could go on and on about stories. Your involvement with the Aguda, and more recently, onto more Chasadim that you're involved with Vadat Salah.
Yes.
Very recently, a couple weeks ago, you were flying through the sky, heading to Romania, and tell us about some of those efforts. What's going on?
When about, I think 10 years ago was Hurricane Sandy.
2012, yeah.
So I had the schus with my brothers. The first Thursday night, we set up shop in Chayashiv, and we brought all the meals. And I found that at the end of the day, there were people that sort of Klal Yisroel forgot about, that struggled. And after Hurricane Sandy, they were helped out in a tremendous way. And I almost feel that this whole story in Ukraine, there was hundreds of Yidden that were learning, there was Shem Shabbos. We didn't know about them. And through all this effort, we see now that they're our brothers. They're Yidden there. They were functioning. They were helped. And we didn't know. They were our Yechidim that were helping them. We went to Romania with the Reshivas, and they were learning with the boys and talking to them. The Reshivas couldn't get enough of learning with these boys, and how they have desires, the same desires to live, and they want to grow, and they want to be. They're us. They're our brothers, and we forgot about them.
Wow. For anyone to take a step back, for anyone that's not familiar, so you went with a number of Rosh Yeshiva and Baal Batim.
Right. It was an amazing trip. We went down there, and we met about 1,000 refugees, and we stopped off in Berlin, and it was unbelievable. In Berlin, my flight got canceled, and I was overnight in Berlin, and it was my grandmother's yard site, so I davened in Berlin, and I said Kaddish in the shul where she grew up. Wow. And my grandmother had blonde hair, and she was a young girl, and they thought she was a German. She was able to help out all her family, bring bread.
It's amazing. Same thing happened to my grandmother. They thought she had blue eyes, blonde hair, and they yanked her off the line.
Wow.
And they didn't send her.
Wow.
She had to hide in the basement for 10 years, but,
Wow.
she's alive and well.
Wow. There was a...
That was because you missed that flight.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, it's a good thing you didn't say to the gate agent, you have a wonderful way of canceling a flight.
Yeah. Whether or not you get onto a plane has tremendous ramifications. Apparently.
He's saying you don't want to come on the flight with me.
If I see you on the flight, I know someone's either having some sort of medical emergency or get pretty nervous.
Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem.
Yeah.
But it was like we did everything right that I should have made that flight.
Yeah.
But you see that's the way Hashem wanted it and orchestrated it. And I had no intention to be there. Baruch Hashem.
Man, plans Hashem, plans better.
Yeah.
I'm reminded of that line from my uncle Menashe Frankel, who was on that trip.
Your uncle is
he's
making a vart tonight.
Tonight, I know. I just spoke to him. I just got off the phone with him, and the reason I'm not there is because we're together. I told him I'm expanding the simcha to where we're going to be.
We're having a mind in this.
Yeah.
He said, your uncle said a great line. We had an event last week in Lakewood, and he got up by the event, and he said, someone called him in the morning and said, how come you're not giving money to such and such organization that's part of the Vadat Salah? And then 10 minutes later, someone else called him and said, you should be giving money to this organization. And that's really what the past 3 months has been like. Such turmoil, pressure back and forth, and questions, and it's a war going on. And at the end of the day, we saved over 40,000 people. You look at Madison Square Garden. Klal Yisroel saved Madison Square Garden of Yiddim.
Filled up twice.
Madison
Square Garden is 18,000 seats.
25,000.
Something like that, yeah. So filled up
Try
twice.
a sports reference on Naki. I'm going to fact check you there.
I'm pretty sure it's 18,000.
I say 25,000. You know why? Because based on the last game of Shas, we fill up the floor.
Oh, okay.
It depends what the event is, apparently.
Yes. By a hockey game, I think it's like 18,600.
Yeah, they use
You
more
want to take a guess? We can Google it right now. Madison Square Garden.
But you just look at that. Look at how many Yiddim, and what I think what's an unbelievable story is over 32,000 donors to this campaign. Over 32,000 donors.
That's crazy.
So it wasn't a couple of people that wrote a big check.
There are Yechidim that wrote nice checks, but people gave. People were calling me up. I want to send $10,000. How do I send it? I want to send $50,000. The people just were sending because they cared.
Amazing. By the way, Madison Square Garden has 20,789 seats. Maybe it grew over the years. Maybe they added the Chase Bridge. Maybe I don't know.
You go on a plane sometimes. And
People do that, by the way. After they Google it, they still try to tell themselves.
I'm pretty sure it was 18,000. I'm going to start Googling, get on the fourth page of Google.
If you go on the plane, sometimes they get more seats on it. So they probably figured it out how to cut some seats and put more seats in.
Yeah, of course. You ever see those videos? The guy I bought this ticket at a sporting game, and their seat is there's a pole right in front of their seat, like Fenway Park, Wrigley Field, these really old stadiums. They have some seats that are so obstructed. The seat is a seat. You pay and you sit. That's 32,000 people giving money.
It's amazing. You watch people, all different walks of life, giving money to something like this.
For a large, for the vast majority of regular people here in New York, America, even from Jews, Ukraine was sort of, it reached a peak, and then you stopped hearing so much about it. It's not in the news so much, but there's still, stuff going on. There's still a war going on.
There's still a war going on, and there's still being people rescued, and there's still a need for resettlement. You're talking about the 6,000 from Jews that are sitting in Europe that we have to resettle them. They're not resettled.
If you
take $2,000 for the 6,000 people, that's a lot of money. Just giving them $2,000 it's not a lot of money that you're going to need. And you talk about in Eretz Yisrael, where you have another group of people. It was just in Eretz Yisrael with the group, and we saw them in action. We went all the different. They're having right now a camp. They advertised in Eretz Yisrael anyone that came from Ukraine in this special camp. And in order that they're going to give the kids a great time, at the end of the summer, they'll say, you want to sign up in yeshivas and schools. And today they had a fair with all the parents came and they showed them all the different schools that are available for them, that the kids should get signed up, and we shouldn't lose these neshamas that had shaykhs to Yiddishkeit from beforehand.
Wow.
There was the first 2 days into the war, this story, I think, really shook me up, that I felt like I wanted to get involved and wanted to help. There was a fellow that built a Beis Yaakov, a beautiful school in Ukraine, and he was driving on the road, and he calls me up and he tells me the fact that my building got blown up and my life work that I could live with, but my chavrusa was driving with his daughter, and he saw a tank coming, and he jumped out of the car. The soldiers in the tank took out the gun and shot him and killed. He goes, I lost my chavrusa. The buildings will be the buildings that are destroyed. And realizing what these people are going through. We heard when we were in Eretz Yisrael, a young girl got up and started talking about her experience, and how the day after she left, the building got blown up, and she came with nothing. All she had was a flute. And another girl, we went to her school, and she was talking about it. She came a day beforehand, a frum girl, and her father's still there. Her father's still in Ukraine. The father can't get out. And you think like it's somebody else. It's
right. But it's so wild just to think about, because on we go with our lives, and they're like first world problems, like, oh, your coffee is too black or whatever. But this is crazy stuff that are happening, and who's accountable for them? Who's supposed to give them the money? And it's millions of dollars that's needed.
Yeah.
It's us.
And this is the time of the year that we lament these realities, all of these tragic circumstances.
Reuven Wolf, who's leading the charge for this fund, he got up and he said that Klal Yisroel is being tested, and it happened before in the past when not everybody had the ability, not everybody had the awareness of knowing what's going on. And there were times that we didn't respond positively. And he said, we can't allow that we're going to say no. It can't be that we're going to forget about our brothers. And that was the drive, that we're going to make sure that every single yid is taken care of.
Wow. It's hitting me as you're describing this, that Chazal say kol ha'mesabel is zoiche v'roya.
Right.
So they explain that you see the geula in lamenting the churban. That is the geula occurring, and during this time of tragedy in the Ukraine, you're mamish being mekabetz nidachenu.
Right.
Me'ar b'kanfei zaretz, and you're gathering Jews from all over. That is the process of geula occurring.
Right. Also, you never thought in your lifetime a refugee. You never thought you'd see that we're paying for neshamas. You never thought. When do you think $6,000 you could pay for a neshama? Like it's unheard of.
Wow.
It's like things that didn't happen in our lifetime.
Right.
It happened many decades ago.
I remember the first call that I was on, and there was the fellow from Toronto was on the call, and he goes, as we were talking, he said, this is what my father was talking about. This is like, it started hitting and realizing it's not comparable to what went on there, but what it is comparable is we have options to help and save neshamas. It's unbelievable. I think watching the different people that are helping, there's amazing organizations out there that are doing amazing work. And under the Varatzala, it's unbelievable how everybody's working together and everybody's trying to help, and everybody's putting their differences aside in order to help our brothers.
It's really amazing. It's unbelievable. I'm going to wind down this episode and really ask you, if somebody is listening and maybe they come from a single family home, They have a single parent home. They have dreams of, doing big things, and they have the challenges they have. Well, what would you say to that individual, that kid?
That's a good question.
Thank you.
I think you take every single day by itself. I think dreams are sometimes get you down if you don't succeed. I think if you have something inside of you, whatever it is, just do it. How it's going to happen, that's not your problem. I have a friend, Aaron Rosenfeld. He always tells me. Yeah. He always tells me, Naftali, you just throw ideas at the wall, and then whatever happens, it sticks. And that, I think that's what we have to do. Just throw item out. Try. It's not just a child that comes from a divorce. Anybody, try something, and you never know. I think people are looking to get involved, and my brother always tells me, every single yid wants to do something. Every single yid wants to accomplish. Just try, and you'll be great. All of us are great.
Naftali, it's amazing, and it's amazing that you have time for this interview. There's so many things that you're involved in between the Aguda and Ukraine and Chasdei Lev.
Thank you for making the time.
Thank you for making the time and prioritizing this.
It's my schus, and like I started off, I said you guys do great stuff, and I appreciate the positivity that you disseminate to everybody. And even though I was reluctant to do it,
shout out to Arya Bloomstein for pushing you to do it.
Yes, Arya is pushed me. But in this morning, I called up Rebbe Feinstein and I said, as a Yeshiva, I want to back out. So he said, you gave your word? I said, yeah. So he said, what's the question? But Baruch Hashem, you guys do great stuff, and it's a schus every step of my life where I am, and Baruch Hashem, I have the opportunity to work in Agudas Yisroel. I have the schus to be part of the Vada Tzala. It's opportunities to do good for Klal Yisroel.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hope you enjoyed this week's episode of the Meaningful People podcast. So much dropped there. So many stories, right?
Oh, he's a fountain. He's a fountain of stories.
Fountain.
It's true. He just left, and we just kept going.
And he was spitting out water
of stories. He's just a fountain of stories, is what I'm saying.
So he's a story fountain.
Yeah. And by the way,
should we title the episode?
No. I feel like my Indian became like challenges.
Yes.
I challenged him, not on air, to document somewhere his stories, if not for publishing, even just for his own family. He has such beautiful stories. I really enjoyed it.
Could you challenge the listeners to leave a review, maybe?
Yeah.
But you have to say, can I challenge you?
You know something?
Ben Shapiro, can I challenge you?
I feel like my challenges have to come from a place of passion.
Yeah.
And I'm open to becoming inspired by you to get passionate about the reviews.
Okay.
Not there yet.
We're not there yet.
So I'm not going to disingenuously challenge
people. Please take that as a challenge from me to show Momo why he should be passionate about the reviews.
There it is.
Leave a 5-star rating. Leave a 5-star review and rating. I just botched that, but we're going to keep going.
You are crushing this now.
I am. I'm really killing it.
It's really late, by the way.
It is. And guess what, guys? We have articles and more content on meaningfulminute.org. Why do we daven, Ben Shapiro? What does davening do for us, right?
That's full circle on the Ben Shapiro challenge.
Yes. So
a lot of people ask me, by the way, did you follow up with him? What'd you end up doing? So Nachi did.
Meaningfulminute.org. We got an article up there. Why do we daven? Is God a gumball machine? Absolutely not. Go ahead, read that article, and see way more content on that website. And we can't wait to see you next week with another episode.
Thank you.
Stay classy.